Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be setting up our family budget for the month of May in my Erin Condren Deluxe monthly planner, and I'm using a kit from the Truce Paperie. I purchased the monthly kit and added on an extra page of the transparent stickers. I like to start with the monthly overview, and I'm whiting out the May 2020 so that the script on the sticker will pop even more. I try to get the top banners as close to the top of the page as I can so that I don't cover the days of the week. Sometimes it does take me a couple tries to get it straight. Then I use these strips to cover up the kaleidoscope design. And then I add these scallop stickers to cover up the days that are not in the month of May. I like to use this page to write down all of the transactions for the 5 categories that I'm keeping track of. So whichever day I end up getting groceries, I will add a sticker to that day and write the amount for that specific category. I color code the categories, so I use whichever pen I need for that specific transaction. I like to write a key to myself on the side so I don't get the colors mixed up. This has really been working well for me, and especially when it comes to the end of the week and I'm doing my weekly check-in. I rely heavily on this page to see where we spent money and what category it's in. It makes it really easy for me to add up everything in each category, and it's also a really nice visual of our spending habits. But now I'm going back to the very first page of the month. This page is on the other side of the May tab, and I like to put our May budget here so that I can quickly get to it whenever I need to. This page is an overview of our monthly finances. At the top of the page, I write our income, which for the most part doesn't change very much, but sometimes there will be expenses for our rental house that is taken out before we receive any income. Or if my husband has any business expenses, it will be included in one of his paychecks. For the month of May, my husband actually gets 3 paychecks just based on getting paid every other week. And this month there happens to be 3 Fridays that he'll be getting paid. I definitely forgot about this when I was setting everything up, but I'm just going to combine the second and third paychecks. On months like this, I do like to pay extra towards our mortgage and our cars, but a lot of that will be written on the notes page. Below our income, I write out all of our expenses. I like to separate them into variable and fixed expenses, mainly because I am able to get all of them written on the page. Plus, it is nice to know which ones are going to be the same every single month, and it's a bit easier to see if there are any drastic changes in our variable expenses. In the notes pages at the very end of this planner, I'm actually thinking about making some kind of chart or graph of some of these variable expenses so that I can refer back to next year, because this is our first full year living in California in this house. So I'm hoping it will give me a good idea of the trends of the weather and all of that, and how it affects some of these variable expenses, especially in the summer when we start using the air conditioning a lot. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing any of the notes pages that I'm planning to set up. I'm definitely going to be making an emergency fund calculation page, and I have a list of a few more that I can't think of at the moment, but now that we are getting closer to the middle of the year, I'm feeling motivated to get some of those note page ideas actually done, so maybe I can include that in a separate video. At the bottom of the page, I write our total potential savings and our total actual savings. As far as our expenses are concerned, I did mention that we are paying a little extra toward our mortgage and our cars. I definitely would have paid extra on my student loans, but with everything going on, there is currently no interest being charged, and by the time they start charging interest again, I will actually be done paying them off. So I'm just going to keep the same amount that I've been paying every single month. I left our gym payment blank because I noticed that we haven't been getting charged for this past month. I believe the last charge was the very beginning of April, and the other change for this month is I ended up taking out Baseling because my husband hasn't been able to start the program again, and he is not expecting to this month. I added tithe this month to our budget, and I actually had written a note to myself to add it last month, but I completely forgot to. And as you can see, I don't really have room to add much more unless I move everything down. For quite some time, we didn't have a specific church that we were tithing to, so we decided to make donations to different organizations. But starting in March, we started watching some church services online from the church that we actually met at. And we've been watching the services every weekend since then, so we decided to start tithing. Next is the notes pages. I always start with my favorite, which is this beautiful floral arch. In the box on the top right, I like to write our May goals, and we actually have a lot of goals this month. My husband and I have a financial advisor now, and we have been meeting with him every week on Zoom. So we have been learning a lot and figuring out a lot of our long-term goals. In this box on the left, right below May, I like to write anything that is happening this month, mainly holidays and birthdays. So this month we have 2 birthdays, Mother's Day and Memorial Day. And at the very bottom of this box, I like to keep track of my credit score. I recently purchased these stickers from Truce Paperie, and I went back and added them to January through April. I just whited out my handwriting and put these cute stickers. For the smaller box on the right below our goals, this is where I like to write myself any notes that I need to remember for next month. And then on the opposite page, I like to use this for any calculations that I need throughout the month. The 2 that I always have are all of the bills for each half of the month. Whatever that adds up to, I try to make sure that there's enough in our checking account, plus a little bit extra just in case there are any checks out there that haven't been cashed yet, or any bills that I completely forgot about. Going back to the other page, this box at the very bottom is where I like to keep track of all of our debt, which are my student loans, both of our cars, and both of our houses. I am 90% done paying off these student loans, so I'm going to be really excited when I no longer have to write that. But it's always really encouraging to see these numbers go down every month. Moving on to the first notes page, this is where I like to write our weekly check-in. Usually on Sundays, I go to my monthly overview page. I calculate how much was spent in each category, and then I come to this page, write down how much was spent, and then calculate how much is remaining in the overall budget. These past couple of months have definitely been out of the ordinary, where we are spending a lot more on groceries and not dining out as much, but normally this would really help for when we are dining out a lot to recognize that and try to cut back and cook at home more. So I feel like right now this page isn't as necessary. It is fun for me to fill it in, but there aren't really any surprises and there aren't many transactions to add up, but I do really enjoy filling everything in. In general, I like to have each week go from Sunday to Saturday so I can just look across the row on the calendar. But for the first week, we do have a couple extra days. So it's from the 1st through the 9th. And the last week, we'll have 1 extra day from the 24th through the 31st. So I divide this page into 4 different weeks. I write the different categories, which are groceries, dining out, gas, household, and unbudgeted. Next to each category, I will write how much was spent, and then in the next column, I will write how much is remaining. This is where the tab comes in handy because I can quickly look at my budget and see how much I actually budgeted for each category and calculate it that way. And then in the very last column, I write how much is remaining per week, which is especially helpful for dining out when things are normal. Because if I notice that we are getting close to that number for the week, I'm more likely to decide not to go out to eat and try to cook something at home instead. At the very bottom of the page, I have the totals, what we had budgeted for all 5 categories, what was actually spent, and any notes that might explain why we are over and under. Then I use these transparent stickers to divide and highlight each week. This page is the main reason I get that extra transparent sticker page. Moving on to my spending log. This page is probably my favorite, but it has definitely been a little rough for me lately. I spent way too much in April, and May is not looking much better so far. But this page serves two purposes. For one, it helps me see how much I am spending, and it also helps me keep track of packages that have been shipped and delivered. This page is really simple to set up. The first column is where I write the date, and then the second column is for the amount. Then I write the description, and I leave two little columns at the end so that I can just check off when a package is shipped or delivered. With the mail service experiencing so many delays lately, it has been even easier to forget certain orders that I've placed, especially since I've been ordering from a lot of new to me shops. So the spending log is probably my most useful page right now. I wanted to mention that I added this transparent money sticker from the Truce Paperie at the top next to the spending log to fill in some of the space that I had. Flipping over to the next page, for these last two pages, I won't be using the transparent stickers. I will be using the stickers with the white background, so I'm just whiting out these hexagons and I'll be writing directly on the sticker. On these pages, I will have our sinking funds and the transaction log for the sinking funds. Ideally, the sinking funds would go first, but I put the transaction log on the first page because it makes it easier when I'm going through the results video to have the sinking funds on the right page so that I'm not writing right next to the coil. For this transaction log, I will basically be writing anything that we purchase that will be coming out of our sinking funds. For example, my son PJ has been growing out of his clothes, so I have been buying a lot of clothes for him. So all of those purchases will be written on this page. This page is also really simple to set up. I just have the date, the amount, the category of the sinking fund, and then the description. In my results video, I'll actually go through and show you how I close out my sinking funds. For our sinking funds, a lot of the setup is going to be transferring information from April. I just take a picture of April on my phone so that I don't have to keep flipping back. I also check the notes pages from the previous month to see if I have any notes of sinking funds that I want to add. In the first column, I write all of the categories, and I like to write all of the categories first so that I know how wide I need this column to be. The next column will be the beginning balance of all of the categories. Then I will have a place to write how much I'm adding in each category, and then at the end of the month I will fill in how much I am subtracting. And the last column is going to be the ending balance for each category. There are certain categories that I have already calculated how much I want to add each month, and some of the categories are flexible based on how much is left over after I've added everything else. So when I'm deciding how much to add to each category, I first go through the ones that I already know. My goal is to add $2,000 to sinking funds, so I will figure out how much is left over after I add all the numbers I know. Starting with our 10-year, I add $300 every month. Then moving down to holidays, I add $125 every month. For travel, I add $100. Medical, $150. Invisalign, $100. For car maintenance, I add $50. School, $300. For diapers and pull-ups, I have lowered this amount to $25. Dill is set at $75, and family photos is $25. I didn't notice that my camera had stopped filming for the rest of the sinking funds. I calculated how much was left over from my $2,000 limit, and I ended up adding $50 each to clothes for my husband, clothes for myself, clothes for the boys, and makeup. Then I added $100 to entertainment, $100 to gifts, and the final category is home maintenance. I was trying to make up for this negative amount, so I added $350. At the bottom, I write down the totals, and then I will figure out how much to actually transfer at the end of the month. I have only started these sinking funds at the beginning of this year, and I know I have a ton of categories, but I have been wanting to start sinking funds for a couple years now, and I've been writing myself notes of categories that I would want. So we have a lot going on here, but it has already been really helpful with knowing where some of our savings are going. I like to look at sinking funds as separate savings for purpose. But that is all for our May budget setup. If you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.